Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whichever time zone you are joining in from. Thanks a lot for showing up today for the Media and Entertainment webinar. I hope you all are having a fantastic day today. Today we'll kickstart it with a very exciting topic, the impact of generative AI on media and entertainment industry. We are really excited to have you all here. Let me begin by introducing myself and AI CoreSpot to you. I am Nitin Naveen, Vice President of Innovation and Strategy at AI CoreSpot. With over a couple of decades of experience in consulting firms dealing with emerging technologies, I feel fortunate to consistently engage with numerous stakeholders, global leaders, their incredible problem solving and innovative ideas. Joining me today are a few of my colleagues, Arvind, Archana, and Naveen, who is in the back end, and will add some energy to this event. Big applause to them for their dedication and putting this all together. Let me tell you something about our company, AI CoreSpot. It was founded more than 3 years back. We focus on AI, ML, robotics, IoT, and much more. Our webinars aim to share the latest technological advancement in the industry. We dive into various tech sectors, unveiling a fresh theme every month and steadily gaining momentum month on month. Our goal is to become the leading AI-driven community worldwide, where individuals like you with similar interests can contribute to mutual growth and success. We are committed to organizing industry-backed webinars, hybrid events, where we take our knowledge through incredible data from esteemed industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and all our trusted partners. Additionally, we fine-tune our content across various digital platforms. We write different blogs, we have a video channel, we have podcasts as well, we have monthly newsletter. So we do all these activities to shed light on the ever-evolving industry. Now coming about today's webinar for which you have registered for. As I said in the beginning, a really exciting topic is up for today, which is the impact of generative AI on media and entertainment industry. So what we will do, we will discuss various perspectives from the creator side, from the developer side, consumer side, from the service provider side, challenges which is coming, and lot many which is going around in the media and entertainment industry. Our expert panel will share valuable insights and engage in thought-provoking discussions that you won't want to miss. Now let's kick off the discussion with some quick highlights. Meet our community partners for today. We have 4 great companies, which includes DirecTV, Televisa Univision, Trusted AI, and Infovision, who played a crucial role in making this webinar a success. Also, a big thanks to all our attendees. Your time and presence means a lot to us. We appreciate your being here to achieve your goals and connect with the fellow participants. Our platform main goal is to help you gain valuable insights and build meaningful relationships. If you leave with few innovative ideas or build new connections, we'll consider it a job well done. Let me introduce our esteemed speakers for today. So our first esteemed speaker is Tina. She is Director IT and Software Engineering at DirecTV. Our second esteemed speaker is Jay, who is Vice President Data Engineering at Televisa Univision. Our third esteemed speaker is Pamela. She is CEO at Trusted AI. And our fourth esteemed speaker and moderator for the event is Vivek, who is Chief Business Officer handling telecom, media, and technology at Infovision. Just one line disclaimer before I hand over the stage to Vivek. The views shared by the speakers are their personal ones. It's not related to any organization in which they represent for. So now over to you, Vivek, to begin this exciting panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, Nitin, and welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm very, very pleased to be moderating this discussion today with a great set of panelists. We've already had the intro to all of them, so I'll get into the crux of the discussion now. And the topic we are discussing, I don't know if I even need to say that, but it is on generative AI. Generative AI as a topic is flashing across, all industries. We can see it in almost all discussions that are going on. And today we are trying to get to understand the impact of generative AI on the media and entertainment industry. Generative AI, with its ability to create new and original content and impacting the way that content is consumed, is rapidly transforming the media and entertainment landscape. Its impact is multifaceted, right? It's affecting everything from content creation to distribution to marketing, audience engagement, privacy, personalization, monetization, advertisement, and whatnot. Not only that, generative AI also has applications across various subsectors within the industry. You take films, you take music, you take gaming, advertising, social media. Its presence is being felt everywhere. Um, I'm a positive person in general, so the technology has already started showing some positive impacts overall, in terms of creativity and automating variety of repetitive tasks. It's freeing up creators to focus on higher level concepts and exploring new avenues. It can also generate unique ideas, sparking creative inspirations for people and pushing the boundaries of what creation and creativity looks like. It has also increased efficiency, by automating a lot of workflows, a lot of content generation activity, and facilitating a faster production cycle in general, I would say. It has also started impacting positively on the consumption side of things, right? If you look at how the content is personalized now, the vast amount of data that is available now to understand individual preferences is unlimited, so to say. This allows for a very tailored content for specific audience. The experience itself also is getting a lot immersive, so to say. AI creates hyper realistic visuals, characters and sounds and whatnot, which enhances the overall immersive experience in games, films, virtual reality, and whatnot. Not only that, it has a positive impact on accessibility. AI can translate languages, it can generate audio descriptions, and create other features that improve accessibility for diverse audiences in general. But like everything else in life, all is not well. It has its own fair of challenges and considerations that we need to be aware of. Ethical concerns are raised every now and then regarding biases, deepfakes, the ownership of content itself. Job displacements are another common concern that we see when we talk about generative AI. The transparency and control of how algorithms work and who maintains control over them is another important consideration. And then, of course, the whole consideration about creativity and automation versus the human potential. With today's our aim overall with today's webinar is not to arrive at any conclusion, so to say, and we will not be able to arrive at any conclusion by any stretch of imagination. What we are trying to do with this discussion is to broach various topics and issues, while using AI as a technology in the media and entertainment sector to make people and everybody aware of what is happening and what are the best ways we can circumvent some of the challenges that we have in the sector. Having said that, let us start getting into the flow of the discussion. Overall, if we have to look at the structure of this session, we are trying to divide it into 2 or 3 major sections. We are talking about a little on the areas which are getting touched with AI. We'll talk a little about the positive impacts, and then somewhat about the challenges and considerations. Overall, in the structure, you will also see that there is something for content creators, there is something for developers, there is something for consumers, there is something for the service providers. So my first question would go on to Tina. Tina, from a content creator's perspective, what do you think is the impact of generative AI in the media and entertainment industry?
Thank you, Vivek. So as you spoke, there are many use cases which allow AI to successfully augment creativity and to allow the creator to work on things that are creatively meaningful and to allow AI to perform the menial tasks. When using AI in this space, there is a balance and a transparency that must be maintained between the AI assistance and the creative integrity. During the general creative workflow, AI can assist with idea generation and inspiration, rapid experimentation and integration of collaborative feedback. AI can allow more efficient background and other digital replacements. And it even allow content creation, showing activities being performed in a lifelike manner that are not humanly possible. A few years ago, I was sitting in a theater watching Avengers Endgame, and I was really fascinated with the Thanos character, because how in the world did they take this larger than life character and put human expressions on it? They use a technique called rotoscoping, which is the merging of live action footage with digital animation and other graphics. So rotoscoping may have been possible before the recent advancements in AI, but the recent advancements makes the process much more efficient and the ability to create content that is much more lifelike. Marvel also did a case study that showed that there is a approximate 10% efficiency gain when trying to remove motion sensors in the editing process. So that saves both time and budget when you're using AI to do that work. And the final case study I would like to discuss is Andy Warhol. The Andy Warhol diaries that Netflix produced used Andy Warhol's voice, and they only had a small sample of recordings. And so they performed voice cloning using generative audio. And what they did is they trained the model using the sample recordings that they had of Andy's voice. Those sample models were not very high quality, but they produced new words in Andy's style and tone using AI algorithms. And then they overlaid the voice with pauses and inflections created by the voice actor. So while this was not they had previously used AI to produce audio for touch-ups and for a line here and there in content, but the methods used with the Andy Warhol diaries was revolutionary.
I agree, Tina. In fact, I read somewhere that AI algorithms are being used for sound cleanups and getting rid of background noises, etc. too. So valid, very valid point. I think the only concern there is that there needs to be some assurance that whatever needs or changes are being made, they are certified by the original images or sounds and they were not altered in any way. But fairly good points. Thank you so much for your input. Staying on the topic, I think, let me move a little bit from the creator side to more of the developers orientation. And I know Jay is looking forward to talk about it. Jay, what's your perspective on how developers are using AI and what AI brings to the table for them? Do you have some perspective to share on that?
Absolutely. Glad to be here. So one of the key things are, I look at AI as a way of having a junior developer or an assistant that helps you with mundane tasks. And we've done this. We use AI extensively for our code generation, and we basically use it for generating test cases, for generating stub code, and it improves over time. And what I've found is that the developers are a lot more productive. The quality will improve with time. Initially there'll be some teething problems, and we cannot learn to get over those teething problems. But if you look at the bigger picture, it actually increases the efficiency of the developers. And also what it does is on another topic, which is extracting information from our massive catalog. AI really helps us get the information quickly. And also, once you have your pipeline set up, it cuts out a lot of the manual labor involved with it, and also the quality improves. Vivek, I think we lost your audio. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't hear him either. Jay, I do hear you though. Tina?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Vivek. Vivek,
Hello.
your audio only.
It's audible, Vivek. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Now, good? I don't know what happened. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so what I was saying was, importantly, once we move on from the developer's perspective, the whole thing on the media chain comes down to the consumers. Again, Jay and Tina, to you, what would you feel on the tech enhancements from a consumption perspective overall? What does it entail for the consumers, right? What sort of enhancements in terms of technology, accessibility, personalization, etc., are you seeing in the industry at this moment?
Sure. Tina, do you want to go first?
Sure. So AI as a tool can be used during live streaming to remove noticeable resolution issues caused by technical limitations such as network latency and low bandwidth. It can also be used for sound cleanup and getting rid of background noise. Also, AI can be used to personalize the experience for the consumer. By capturing a large number of data points, AI can analyze statistics and perform tailor-made targeting for the consumer, reducing unwanted products causing advertising noise for the consumer. So this allows the advertisers to have a higher return for their advertising dollars. It's kind of like having your own personal shopper. And also, from a consumer perspective, and I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, Vivek, the whole accessibility area. With AI, there can be many accessibility enhancements such as real-time automatic captioning, audio descriptions, and other innovations. Even doing audio dubbing and choosing your language that you want to experience the live stream. From a gaming perspective, there are an estimated 400 million disabled gaming folks globally. Using voice and audio recognition for games, as well as a virtual AI assistant, AI can perform the ability to seamlessly interact with live streams using voice commands, and this whole area is in its infancy. But as the AI assistants become more intuitive and responsive, this will just get better and better. There's been a couple recent product enhancements in this accessibility area. Google Project GameFace now provides a hands-free AI-powered gaming mouse, which targets enabling people to control the computer's cursor using head movement and facial gestures. And also Minecraft Access is a product which targets making the whole Minecraft experience accessible to blind and visually impaired players by describing the Minecraft environment. So those are areas that I found very interesting.
Very interesting, actually. Yeah, and the idea that it can act as a source of good for those people who want to kind of game and may not have all the accessibility features. I was not even aware about this, Tina. Thanks a lot for shedding light on it. Sorry, Jay, please go ahead.
So on the streaming media side, what we find is that actually it really helps the experience of the user when it's on a streaming platform, because we are able to hyper personalize. We're able to give them better choices because we are tagging the content much better. Also leads to better ad serving, and also things like scene detection and sentiment detection, scene edge detection, so the ads don't come right in the middle of a scene. So it really gives for a much better user experience, I would say. And then all that user experience actually translates to people staying on the platform more and adds to the revenue aspect of it. So I think it's we are really living in a time where we have these assistants that are really helping us do this, which would take a long time if you were to do it manually, and also the quality may not be as good.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would hate to be cut off in the middle of an exciting gameplay or a scene, right? So yep, that's absolutely valid. Good, very nice. And I mean, any thoughts on how monetize? Oh yeah, Pamela, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, so I want to also mention that I'm looking at this from a positive outcomes perspective. So I want to raise a couple of points to consider as risks, but not that we should deter from using this, but how we can overcome it and mitigate. So when a couple of things before we get too far into, I just want to have 2 points. That one is about coding, right? Code generation, and maybe I'll go back to that later because right now we're talking about sentiment, and I want to talk about coding as well. So sentiment analysis is not a perfect science. There's a lot that is being developed, and it is really not, I would say, on stable ground yet. And one thing that if when we are adopting such technology, for example, it'll be really behoove the business, whoever is in charge, the PMs, etc., to be aware of the cross-cultural impacts. So, for example, certain cultures will smile when they are anxious. Certain cultures will frown when they're anxious. So that can become a very important thing to consider as we are looking to make this help this um, broaden our reach. Right? We're talking about we can translate to many languages, hundreds of languages across the globe, different dialects, different, but so those are the kind of things that I just wanted to mention, that not a showstopper, but we have to be aware of that because the repercussions can be very high, as we have seen even in the non-AI world, right? If you were doing business with in Japan, for example, you have to be extremely cautious about the greeting routine, the how you address, for example, when I'm talking about smiling, for example, in China, smiling is not only done when you don't only see smiling when it's related to happiness, for example. So those are the kind of things that where the bigger markets are, maybe that's where the value, the focus might be. But we really do have to look at, we're looking at 100 languages, then what is to be considered. That's one thing. And maybe I'll talk about coding later, Vivek. So I'll go back.
Yeah, I think we should talk about coding. Jay had some good points about
I
coding
also
and how.
want to add to
Hmm,
what you're saying. So,
hmm,
Televisa Univision is the largest Spanish content provider. And just within the Spanish diaspora, there's so much difference, right? And so, right now, what we do is we make sure that everything goes through like a human QA check. We want to make sure that nothing passes through, and I know when you widen the audience, then the cultural aspects become even more important. But I can tell with experience that just within Spanish speaking population, there are many different nuances that have to be considered. And you're absolutely right about that.
Yes, thank you. I think just to complete on that thought, as businesses are preparing for using this high impact technology, and it's so compelling that it really, you cannot say don't use it, right? There is so much value in a lot of, whether it's efficiency, whether it's content, creativity, enhancing. Even for creativity enhancing, there is a point, which is the content that we're looking at, generative AI, these foundation models, the way they have been um, trained, and how they are in production right now, are producing output right now. There is good content and bad content it's been trained on, right? If it's scraping data that is on the web, and some of the content is not aligned with your values or your views of the world, but how it can can kind of creep through, brings me to that point of, yes, there will be nuances, there will be subtle differences even within the culture, Jay, as you pointed out, and across cultures. But the other thing to look at, in addition to having a human in the loop, is to have a process which is making sure that there is a process for things that can be areas that are high risk or highly sensitive, to have a process in place where it's the right human in the loop. Because um, for example, if the training on the web with so much data, it has humans in the loop, for example, in ChatGPT, right, who are looking at the content. But when it comes to making a medical diagnosis, is that the human you want in the loop? Or do you want somebody who has medical data and you fine tune the model and is making the human decision? So I'll stop there and we'll go up to coding later.
Yeah, and I think that is the most important thing we want to consider, right? That there's so much of a shiny object out there that people are trying to pursue that, but really having the right processes, how can we harness the power of this AI to make it work for us, I think is where we have to pay a lot of attention. And you brought up the right kind of points there.
Right, and ensuring that the consumer of that information or the product has some transparency into like what AI was used, what models. I don't know that the right solution has been found there yet on how to provide that transparency, but I do think that that is important.
I agree, Tina. Vivek, I'll just respond to that if that's fine.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with you. Transparency as to where is it computer generated, where is it, human generated, etc. That is extremely important. One problem that surfaces that is absolutely you're right. It has not been solved for, but it should be. Is even if you have transparency in a foundation model, if even let's say ChatGPT or Bard or whoever, even if there is transparency that they are using such and such source, right? Firstly, that source can be hallucinated, right? It is capable of putting out verbiage that and references that don't exist. And secondly, even if transparency is there that they had certain sources, do you as a consumer have the capacity or the ability to go and take a look at what those sources were? So transparency may not even be a silver bullet or even a BB bullet in this case, in my thinking, right? How do we get to what is the root cause, what is the symptom, and what is the impact, right? Those have to be, I would say, extremely contextual and thought through in a business perspective. So transparency is important. It can be very helpful in certain cases where it's saying, okay, this when you're calling a call center, you're dealing with a chatbot up till you need somebody, for example. But if you're getting content from generative AI or it's making up things, then how do you detect that? It may even give you the fact that you're talking to a chatbot, which is Gen AI uh, fueled. But I think we have to kind of solve for that. I'm glad Vivek said in the beginning that we're not going to be able to solve for anything, um, maybe have conclusions here, but these are the areas we have to be raising as issues. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, sure. Some very valid points, and I know we delve into the concern side of it of the equation on the AI front. But and I think it's a good segue now to actually talk about some ethical concerns, right? So I think whenever we talk about the whole concept of AI, the use of AI, the transparent use of AI, so to say, it's very important to kind of keep into considerations what are some of the negative influences that the technology can have. So if I may defer to you, Pamela, to talk a little bit about, you've been doing a lot of work yourself. In fact, your organization kind of is specialized in some way on that topic, right? So what are your thoughts on what are the concerns that are shaping up on the generative AI front? And what are some of the ways in which we can circumvent some of the risks and have organizations prepare a little better to kind of adopt the technology? Because as you mentioned, the technology is there for everybody to use, and there's no stopping the use of technology. but we need to have some guardrails and some processes in place to make sure that we are using it right. Your thoughts, please.
Yes, certainly. So that is what we do at Trusted AI, right? The whole concept is how do you build these systems or adopt them so you can trust the outcomes, right? And that's a very difficult problem to solve. So without taking a, so I had defined these 8 essential pillars of trustworthy AI, all right? And that includes security. Having a security, cybersecurity of AI systems is a very complex and um, ill understood area right now. But a security by itself, the way we have defined it for regular systems, is not how we are going to be able to do it for AI systems. So there is a lot of complexity there. But what are the other pillars? It is privacy, audit, transparency, explainability. Why are they making decisions that they are that we are getting out? What is the output? Regulations, right? Regulations play a very key role, in what companies are going to be doing, or what they should be doing, and what they could be doing, right? It heavily is influenced by regulations. And I'll talk a little bit about regulation because I see that being the dog that's the tail, or the dog that's making the dog wag its tail. Okay, and last but not least is bias or ethics. Okay, so these are the pillars that kind of, it depends on what the use case is, what the context is, that one would be more important than the other. For example, you talked about ethics. Let's take a look at the example that Tina had given, which was what about Andy Warhol, which is fantastic, right? Because of AI, we can take a snippet of a audio clip and um, actually produce content in that, right? So I'll give you one use case here. Audio as a authentication. That's one thing that is being used widely by companies. For example, you call in, they authenticate where you're calling from, you boy your voice, they'll even tell you transparency, right? That your voice is being used for authentication. We had done a lab on how to create a clone, uh, a voice of a celebrity, and in this case, it was Elon Musk. Um, and he recorded a podcast or something, so it was clear audio with no background. Okay, took us a week to clone his voice to be able to say something that we had written. Comes Dali too, right? That was, guess how much it dropped to achieve the same result. What took 40 hours? Guess how much time it took? Just anybody can throw out a number. I mean, I'm happy to.
2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know.
3 minutes,
Wow.
Vivek. 3 minutes, right?
Amazing.
So here's the value. Now you can take anybody's voice. That's the fantastic part, right? The Warhol example you gave. But now, what if we are creating content which we may have rights to, but we are putting in because we're using generative AI, which is trained on data which we don't have insight on, and it is so voluminous that we will not be able to um, create, have that kind of gate around it, right? What if there is even a one small slur that this voice is, against a particular gender or a particular race, which the poor guy may never have had any intentions or feel that way, but because it's being generated, you have something that is goes undetected. It can have a lot of negative impact on the and you can think about the repercussions there. The person might be coming after you if they're not alive, their trust or their foundation. And we have seen something that was recently created where I think it was a famous singer and his daughter was not happy with the cloned content and music that he had created. So those are things that those are waters we have to tread very carefully on, right? When it comes to ethics. So that's a thing of ethics, right? You're creating content, but it could be something that is against the ideology, for example. That's one thing. The other is there have been a lot of studies done. And by the way, Archive, which is spelled ARXIV, is a great way to look and do research for anything that you're doing to see if there is any studies that have been done. Because the lay of the land, where we are right now, whether it comes to security or privacy or deep impacts such as explainability, what is happening is because we are moving so fast, the examples and the case and the research, that's all we have to rely on. We don't have any real world experience in a lot of ways to help protect us as we're moving forward. So there's that whole process I was talking about, creating a structured approach and knowing what your context is, knowing what you are doing and what could go wrong, because we know risk management. However, risk management for AI is a completely different animal. We can leverage some of what we know, but when these risk controls are required, when these safeguards are required, who needs them, all that is changing very fast, and we need to kind of stay on top of it. And there then goes regulations, right? How can regulations help us? Because we've never, as a security professional, as a risk management professional, we always regulations were not something we ever look forward to, right? It was always a case of don't do just the minimum of what regulations are requiring. But in this case, I feel we have to help the regulators, help them regulate the right things so that we don't bring risk and harm to society in general. What EU has done has taken a risk-based approach. And in fact, I just did a podcast with the guy who's creating the standards, who's leading the efforts around this. It's called Selec. It's in Europe. They're creating the standards so that companies can adopt, know what to do with EU AI Act, which is what I do, right? Very heavily immersed into what is the act saying, how do you make this so that companies can actually be safe, put the right process and procedures in place, and move forward and innovate, right? So it doesn't become that iron ball around your legs. But to make it kind of complex and unnecessarily confusing, in my view, the approach US has taken is pro innovation and giving a different slant on what controls are to be put in and how, and they're more pro innovation. So it's well, the position is you have to build it right, but there are no standards. Standards are being built right now as we speak. So these are the things that we need to kind of put into our playbook as to when you're creating a playbook, how can you be successful and not be caught by unnecessary risks and harms that because you were focusing on the outcome, didn't focus on what can be the risk. I think that's where a good risk management approach or a very contextualized business approach is absolutely critical.
Interesting. Yeah, Tina, go ahead.
Yeah. So Pamela, if a business is out there, and I think we all want to be very responsible, and we've heard all of the risks, in the industry, all the horror stories about AI. If a business has an awesome opportunity, they want to introduce AI, but they want to try to do their due diligence and introduce it responsibly, what would be your advice to them?
It would be really based on what is the business objective, right? What is the technology you want to deploy? And look at the lens through the lens of, firstly, if it's generative AI, let's say we're talking about, and not predictive AI, because then the risk lens would be different. But taking a look at, it would really be people, process, technology, right? Who are the people involved in making that decision? What is the outcome? What is the business objective? And who is the business? So identifying stakeholders right from the start, and that'll define the objective and what needs to be done and who's going to be doing it. Then comes the data governance and making sure that there is a process in place to identify the swim lanes that the product should be in, right? Because it's foundational elements, even sometimes fine tuning and using RAG is not going to be enough. So what is the doing that risk assessment, right? The AI risk assessment of the project, and then identifying what is the technology, the tools, and the process that can be put in place, and that those serve many purposes, including if and when regulations are ratified and finalized, then you have something to show that this is the risk-based approach we took, and these are this is the direction we went in. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that in the US, there is the only regulator in the world right now who is penalizing companies if they are causing any consumer harm, and that is the FTC.
Okay.
There are others that are looking at it. HHS for healthcare, for example. There are other federal agencies that have been tasked with creating, regulations for their own industry. But FTC right now has, for example, they had issued a CID for OpenAI, which I had published actually in one of my podcasts. I'm happy to send that to you if anybody's interested. But they are asking them for around 10 areas. Where did you get the data from? What security process did you have in place, et cetera, et cetera. They have 10 different areas. And they are issuing what is called CID, which is called, I think, Chief Investigation Directive or something of that sort. Okay. It's called CID for sure. But that's what FTC is doing. Okay. And just to conclude on this, Todd, sorry, Jay, after the executive order that the White House had come out with, right, around trustworthy and secure AI, they had tasked the FTC with taking that regulatory kind of or playing that role. So yeah, there's I would say there's a lot going on, but to answer your question, one can only it has to be so any given company, for example, can have hundreds of AI systems and models, right? So having that process in place is going to be really important to how to examine that risk, how to examine the requirements.
I think what you're saying is very refreshing because, we are out here trying to capture as much market share as possible, and we are trying to see how we can actually use this technology, especially when it's moving really fast. And this is one of the things I think if you don't pay attention to it now, you're going to pay a lot later. So it's really valid. And I think more people should talk about this, more about like the regulatory aspects of using AI. So this was very refreshing. Thank you.
Right.
You're
Right.
welcome.
Yeah, Pamela, in fact, there is a question which kind of rightly aligns with whatever you and Tina were just talking about, right? So who will be responsible for the decisions made by this AI? Do you kind of hold the enterprise responsible who's using the language models? Is it the language model company itself, like the chat GPTs or the Geminis of the world? Who does the responsibility fall on?
Accountability. Yes, yes, and yes. I think I'm going to ask Tina to weigh in first, and I do have some thoughts on it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
So from my thought, I think the responsibility is the business, the enterprise that produce or use that AI, right? They have the responsibility to put the guardrails on to make sure that that any regulations or any harm that comes from that AI is addressed. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think it should be both, right? I think it should be both because we are trying to move really fast with the technology and trying to gain a competitive advantage. And if there are things that we don't know the underlying system uses, then it's very hard for you to also try to capture that market share and also keep all the guardrails. I think it has to be both, and it has to be worked out in the language when you're creating the how we're going to interact with these systems.
The contracts and putting
Absolutely.
verbiage in the contracts
Yeah.
that address that. Yes.
yeah, I think I agree with that it is a joint responsibility as well, because the company definitely has to do its due diligence and has the right guardrails in place. But and I was just talking to the chief data scientist at Fiddler.ai, and they help create a secure AI and secure, not just secure, but um, machine learning processes, and they have a platform. Okay, but I was talking to the chief data scientist, and I said, well, if you are using an LLM and something goes, it is giving some output that is not acceptable, what are you going to go to the LLM provider? Isn't does that how can you be that reactive, right? And will that be of any will that just slow you down as a business, right? Or make you abort that process because you feel like you cannot rely on something that you invested a lot of time and money in. um, I think the bottom line is it is a joint responsibility, but I think it's really clear in my mind anyway, that this is a tool. This is not something you can rely on as a source of truth, for example, right? It is there. If we can paint it and not put it on a pedestal, right? That this cannot, you know, we expect too much from it. It has to be taken for what it is good for, which is it can help with creativity, but not be creative, right? Because it is only building on things that have already been created before, for example. So that's one thing. It is not. Now the other thing is it doesn't know grammar, right? It doesn't have grammatical rules. LLMs are learning by, they're basically statistical probabilities. So when it comes up with anything and it is wrong, it's not doing what it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's putting the way they work is, they have the statistical probability of what the next thing should be, and it'll spit that out, right? So I think even though we can we can put in the guardrails. So for example, the tech providers, that they put in guardrails that it should not have toxic content. And yet if you look at the red teaming exercises which they're using to make sure that they stay within the realms of what is ethical and what is safe and secure, it's it's like putting a piece of thread on a cliff, as a guardrail, right? Are you not going to go over that cliff? I think I would not want to test the strength of that string, But what I mean is, where we are, the responsibility is really, it cannot, you're consumer facing, your clients are looking at you, you chose to adopt that technology, which is in its nascent and infancy. So if we were to split it, it's joint responsibility, but if we find ratios, I would say it's 80% for the organization and 20% for the provider of the technology.
And also, I think it depends on if you're going to be using it in a real time workflow as opposed to a more of a batched workflow where you can actually put in those guardrails, right? I mean, if it's something that happens in the background and you can, your pipeline actually and your processes wet the data, it's very different from having a real-time response where there's not much you can do.
I agree with that, Jay. If it has impact on the consumer or the client, then I would say it's the 80-20 rule. But if it's in the background, and you raise a good point, because a company at any given time has so many vendors and third parties and business partners that you're working with, that who could be using this, right, technology. Is it, those contracts that Tina mentioned, those are really important to have in place that clearly outline if there is anything that impacts my business
Mhm.
and you're using it for, right, as a business partner, then that's the contract I would like to have, because I don't want to be uh, blindsided, right?
And it goes back to risk management, like you mentioned before. Yeah.
Yes.
This is a good discussion on the ethics part of it, and I expected this to kind of last a little longer, and I'm glad that we're having this discussion. Maybe let's switch gears and talk about the service provider side of it. And Jay, I'd like you to come in and give a perspective on how service providers are thinking about using Gen AI for monetization, for advertisements. You mentioned a little bit about metadata earlier. If you can elaborate a little bit on that part, it'll be helpful for the audience.
Sure. I mean, it boils down to building a better mousetrap. So if we have to catalog content, if we have to extract features from content, manually it takes a long time, right? So as a first pass, we can use these technologies to basically, get a simple thing as a summary. Then you identify the genre, the subgenre, all the properties that actually feed into a recommender system in order for you to get a better user experience. So those are things actually we are experimenting with those things. We are actually, because we have a vast content, right? I mean, our telenovelas are over decades and they're really popular. So we do that for feature extraction, and we use that more, and we want to take that to another level where we want to look at moods. We want to look at moods of scenes. I know it's subjective, but still, this is something, as a tool, as an offline tool, we are able to experiment very quickly. And that's the advantage, is that, if you were to do this manually, you have to hire a lot of people. We don't know about the quality, but if you can actually quickly prototype this stuff and then send it through people who are specifically content oriented folks who run the content teams, then I think it really helps them. It's like having an army of people just going out there cataloging your content, adding properties. And then the next phase of that is you're basically doing clustering so that people can look at similar content, or people can look at most popular content or recency. Basically, it's supercharging your recommendation engine with all this. And then you're going to the more advanced, you're looking at image recognition, you're looking at is there an ad in a live stream, or is there a change of scene? What is the content of the scene, and what is the sentiment of the scene? That goes to more context oriented advertisement. So you can actually serve better ads. You can actually be more efficient with that. And again, a lot of it, to get it to production, as you know, takes a while. But really, for rapid prototyping and actually doing A/B testing, it really works well. And I think these tools, especially, the way they are churning out these models now, and all the APIs, it's really very exciting times.
Interesting. Yeah. Tina, any thoughts from your side on monetization, personalization, advertisement, etc.? You've been, in this industry talking about that, and from a content creation perspective, that's fine. But what about the service provider side of it, right? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if service providers are looking to use AI, my thought is that they can really differentiate themselves using AI in those areas that we talked about: accessibility, virtual technology enhancements, personalization, as you just spoke. And also, there's this whole new concept of supporting new ways to interact with the content. The content that's being, that's being distributed. I can see, a new and innovation coming in that area. As you're consuming different content, being able to interact with it. I would assume that at some point we're going to see some partnering with the content providers and the service providers to support that new way to consume content.
Interesting. And I'll try to weave in certain questions that we are getting so that we don't leave them out. So one of the questions that has come in is, how do you see the role of user-generated content evolving in the context of Gen AI, and what implications does it have for the content creators themselves who are generating this user content and the platforms? Any thoughts on that? My initial reaction when I saw this question was, from the content creator's perspective, of course, it provides you with newer opportunities, right? I mean, you are reducing a lot of technical barriers that existed for a lot of people, right? I mean, it is making it more accessible for sure for a lot of people to create a lot of content, which in turn, I would assume, would increase the volume and variety of content that you will see from the user side, right? But on the flip side of it, of course, for content creators, then it also creates the challenge of competition, right? The sheer volume of the whole AI generated content can inundate you with so much that it will be hard for you to kind of, figure out what to look at, and then how do you differentiate yourself in this big market. Any thoughts on that? Anybody?
I mean,
I'll just go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just saying, I think it's a mix, right? I mean, we can use AI for certain things, like in production, like, if you want a scene where you want LA in the middle of 1945 summer, right? That is something that we generated. I mean, a lot of the action happens on a soundstage anyway. So I see there, I see, a good use of AI. But if you're talking about user generated content, like, if you're talking about social media, then it gets very hard to regulate that. And also there's going to be varying levels of quality, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think if users are using generative AI to generate content, right, or even in companies, one thing, again, to watch out for is a lot of this is uncharted water. So if you go on, a tool like Midjourney or something, right, you ask you put in a prompt. Sometimes you get back images. Then I was like, wait, this looks like Angelina Jolie, but with a slight variation. So how close is close enough to actually be problematic? One thing, there's a whole line of intellectual property, that these tools have been used on, what was openly available but may not have been public property, right? So, for example, if you have a website, I have Trusted AI website, I'm posting content, I'm posting leadership content out there, but that's not, because it's publicly accessible doesn't make it public property as such, right? So when these tools have been created on property which is kind of stands on that gray area, then I did read about, Midjourney and other providers, because I like Midjourney a lot. So I'm using them because they're top of mind for me. But I know there are other tools out there who have had lawsuits against them for intellectual property usage. And they've come back, and they've said, so it is a kind of a battle that is, going on right now. Don't know where it's going to land up, what the conclusion will be. But if I was a business who was, very using this, very heavily becoming reliant on such tools, for example, I would want to know what the direction could be. Is the content created, is it user content or business content? Is it mine, or there's still intellectual property laws out there which are saying that if it's generated using generative AI, then it may not be your data, right? It doesn't belong to you as a business. Does it belong to the platform provider? So you got to be a bit careful. I'm not saying you don't use the generation tools, but you have to be a bit careful as to this could go against in terms of intellectual property. So where would that leave you? You've got to be kind of prepared for that. And then, as you know, companies such as Microsoft and OpenAI, they're saying that if you have intellectual property battles, then we'll take that on for you. I don't know if as a business owner, that's a stance I would like to take, that I'll still do it, but then they can come and help. No,
Mm.
things will be put on hold. It will have impact on the business.
Right. See a lot of injunctions coming in. So, what about the platform implications, right? I mean, for them, the content moderation challenges, and Jay, you alluded to it a little bit, right? So the moderation part of it would also come in. So they may need to develop new tools and strategies to identify and manage AI generated content that may be, harmful or misleading, or in many ways violating copyrights in some ways.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
think there has to be a balance from a business standpoint. A lot of times they want to push you to use this to maybe cut cost or maybe improve your processes, right? But what they're probably not looking at is also, are we investing enough in making sure that, there are no lawsuits, right? The like you said, America is about innovation here. I've not seen regulations come through. Right now, we're running really fast to get that market share. But I think what the leader should look at is, yes, you can do this, but you also have to, instead of backloading all this with lawyers, you front load it up, with your processes. So that, and I think that is the key. And a lot of people are missing that because they try to run really fast. But I think they have to pay attention to that. Having your processes ready. It's like anything else. Any new technology, when it comes in, there's a rush to go reach out to that shiny apple. But you also have to think about these other things, the long tail.
Interesting.
Oh, sorry. And it becomes a reputation item too for the company, right? Because if something bad happens and you can show that you did your due diligence and that bad thing just happened, even though you did all of your due diligence, to me, that reaction is much more different than if you were very careless and it caused something bad to happen.
That's right, Tina. All right. Staying on with this topic about content creation, there's a question coming in which talks about the dynamics of the collaboration between human creators and the generative AI systems, right? So what role do we see for human creativity and the general emotional intelligence that we bring in, intuition, so to say, and how might this collaboration shape up the nature of content creation and consumption? I know, Tina, you alluded to the use of explainable and transparent AI in the beginning. Any thoughts on this aspect and how it relates to it?
So I would hope that in general we think of AI as a human enhancement versus a replacement. And there are lots of things even today, right? And I think that the capabilities will just grow. There are a lot of things that folks can use AI to do menial tasks, but I do believe that creative piece, human, the human piece of this needs to be protected, right? And we need to be sure that, like I said, that we protect that and we use the AI as a enhancement and not a replacement.
I'd like to add to that. So I'm a musician, and a lot of times I use Chat GPT to prompt it to give me, in the style of give me lyrics, whatever, right? It's not like I'm going to publish it, but it's a great tool for me to spark the creativity, something that lights the spark, and then I go to my own and I make it my own. And it is a challenge too, because you don't want your art to be compromised, but at the same time I think you have to go in cognizant that this is just a tool that gets you to the next level, but you're still 100% have to use your creativity on that.
Interesting. On that positive note, I think we are about to reach the point where we kind of summarize our overall thoughts. Any final, thoughts, comments, or opinions from the panelists on what we can look forward to on this technology? Any final closing comments from your side?
To me, it's very exciting. You have to look at the positive sides. And after Pamela's comments, even for me, being a technologist, you're enamored by all the features, but you have to have one foot in the, make sure what you're stepping into. And I think that's the thing I'm taking out of this conversation today. And so thank you, Pamela, for your input on that.
Thank you.
So, from my perspective, while automation, machine learning, and even artificial intelligence, they've been around for a while. And, the recent advancements in mainstream recognition of the potential game-changing impact has caused leaders to kind of step back and weigh the benefits and the risks and to make decisions around leading the company in a right direction. And so my personal request is that when we're weighing the benefits and risks, that not only do leaders weigh these from a technology perspective, but they do look at that human element and make sure that the benefits and risks to the human are also taken into account.
Put, Tina, yeah.
I would just reiterate that as we, embrace this, because we do see the value it brings, the democratization for, I just interviewed this guy. He's very well known, and he talked about for assistive algorithms for those who have autism, for example, who are disabled. How this can really be a level set for everyone. For now, for me, when I was talking about bias and gender, I was looking at gender or ethnicity or race, etc. But he opened my eyes that this is a very powerful tool that can be done right, can bring so much value across the board. So I'm really excited. This is my passion. That is why I even came to this country, because I want to work. I want to have work with artificial intelligence, see it succeed, and I see that we can get the intended outcomes if we build in the right risk-based controls at every step of the way. So very excited about that.
Well said, Pamela. So I think we've reached a point where we need to conclude. So overall, thanks a lot to the panelists for their wonderful comments and insights. Even getting deep into their experiences, so to say, on the use of this technology. And what has come out is that generative AI does present a powerful force with immense potential to revolutionize the industry in many ways, right from creators to developers to consumers and service providers alike. However, as the panelists pointed out, there are careful considerations of ethical concerns on responsible development, on a human-centric approach that came out, which is crucial to ensuring a positive impact of the technology. And as the industry kind of shapes up to the early adoption of generative AI and use of the full extent of its impact is yet to unfold, what seems like is that a collaboration between human creators and AI tools is likely to be the most effective approach going forward in the future. Thanks a lot to the panelists. And with that, we'll come to the conclusion of this panel discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Pamela. Let me put a closing remarks from AI Core Spot side as well. We would like to thank and express our appreciation to all our community partners, all our distinguished speakers who have been with us throughout the journey, and all the attendees who engaged in this forum. which created a space for knowledge enrichment. As you know, all our panel members today were outstanding, and we value their willingness to collaborate and share the valuable insights to all the attendees and to us as well. In case anybody missed any part of the session and want to revisit it, today's event will be available on our company's YouTube page for your convenience. As exciting technological advancements are on the horizon, we are thrilled to explore more in this year, 2024. Looking ahead, we have a diverse lineup this year, focusing on different sectors such as banking, financial, insurance, telecom, media, entertainment, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, and so on. So stay connected with us for continuous learning. For more technological updates, visit our website and social media channels. We'll be sharing a wealth of knowledge, including details, announcement for upcoming events, and much more, aiding you in getting the registration in place. We look forward to your support. Please like and share our content on the social media. A heartfelt thanks to our partner, who is InfoVision, who is a knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner. Explore their websites at infovision.com to delve deeper into technological advancements. We thoroughly enjoyed bringing this session to you and hope you found it as enjoyable as we did. We eagerly anticipate more sessions with you in the future. Take care, have a great day, and a great year ahead. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.